So, I have experiences where when my one father got sick, my other father couldn't get access to him in the hospital because their partnership wasn't recognized. They weren't officially married. When one of my fathers passed away, my other dad couldn't get access to his estate, essentially, what little was left, because their relationship wasn't recognized. So I've seen them have to fight through restrictive laws that have limited their ability to be in a relationship and be in partnership and be in love. And I don't think that's what this country is about. I don't think it's about you can be in love and you can't be in love. I think that's just ridiculous, and it's a limit to freedom. And I think everything, so much in our history is about the arc of freedom moving forward, and more people being covered under that. So to me, it's a no-brainer. I support fully, trans rights. I think everyone has, a bathroom, an accessible bathroom, and it's called their bathroom in their home. Everyone just goes to the bathroom together. So if that works in most homes, then I think that can work in other places. And I think we need to help people confront whatever fear they have about what they think that means, because it's not the scary thing that they sort of cooked up in their heads that it is. And I think it's about getting people into a relationship. A lot of the stuff before we got same-sex marriage was about people being in a relationship with same-sex couples, LGBTQIA + people, and that's what changed hearts and minds. So I think it's gonna take that as well to move things forward there. I'm the product of gay adoption, of essentially what was a gay marriage and a same-sex marriage, and I fully support it. I was born into the movement. I don't just vote progressive. I was born into that slice of the progressive youth movement, and I have no choice but to support it because it's my own family. So
yeah, basically me too, except my mom's a log cabin Republican that will admit that she's a log cabin Republican.
Sure. Yeah.
But yes,
that happens.
So trying to see if any of them are intersectional. So I guess a big thing is public transit, which is kind of like infrastructure in a sense.
Yep.
But infrastructure obviously includes for this area more than SEPTA.
Right.
It includes roads and there are so many potholes, and
sure.
I have a low car, so it impacts me a lot.
Yep.
And I'm not a good driver, so it also impacts me a lot. I should not be driving a car. But how would you improve the infrastructure? And for example, I used to take SEPTA Regional Rail, and then I switched to the high-speed line. SEPTA Regional Rail sucks a lot. It's not reliable at all. I don't know if there's something you could do about improving that. Just improving it in general, and even making it more affordable. There may not be anything related to that, but how can we improve the infrastructure in this area, even regarding highways and byways?
Yeah. The short answer is that we need to invest, right? So I think there's sort of two issues. There's an infrastructure, multiple issues. Infrastructure issue, sort of an economic and jobs issue, and then also a clean energy, sort of green economy issue.
Those are also on the list, so we can talk about those.
Yeah, and I think it's important to marry those issues and sort of say, all right, well, if we as a society know that we need to face this issue called climate change, then why not commit to moving to a 100% renewable energy economy in 10 years? Mayor Kenny in Philadelphia has already said that he wants to do it by 2035. I think we can get it done sooner, and why not? Because if we say 2028, we'll probably actually hit it in 2035, based on how things go. So I think moving towards that spurs a lot of other innovation, right? So that causes us to rethink our infrastructure. It causes us to rethink the buildings that we live and work in. It causes us to rethink our transportation systems. And inside that larger goal, are micro goals, like, okay, maybe we need a light rail system, or maybe we need, a high-speed rail system that, will employ thousands of, people and new jobs and well-paying jobs to, restructure current systems that we have, transportation systems, and or build new ones. So, there's great jobs there. It's a cleaner environment there as well, and the everyday person has a better commute and a cheaper commute, and a faster commute. So I think there are ways that blend all these issues together into a broad vision, an exciting plan that people can get behind. Like, imagine if every day for 10 years everyone in this district was jazzed about, hey, we're like leading the nation.
Right.
This is the thing about Philadelphia. Like, we've led the nation before. Like, we're the ones who said, while war was raging and states were bickering, let's come together and codify what this country is and what it's about. And we didn't get everything right. Lord knows that, right, at all. Like, women were excluded, people of color were excluded, Native Americans were treated horribly, a lot was wrong, right? But that was the start of this area leading in terms of, bringing folks together and saying, how do we codify this vision? How do we, turn it into something tangible and start working towards it? And it wasn't easy, but we did it, and this area led the way, and I think we can do it again with this next revolution, which has to be a green revolution. So, and there's all the research that shows the average consumer spending way too much time, the average citizen is spending way too much time in transit. They're spending too much on it. It's eating up a chunk of both their wallet and their watch that is unsustainable, and that's a family issue. If you're away from your kids longer because you're commuting longer, that hurts families. If you're spending more on gas or more on transportation costs, that hurts families. And I think conservatives a lot of time, they want to talk about taxes, but we need to have a conversation about families first policies. That we need to look at taxation in the broadest sense. How families are taxed because they don't have affordable child care, and they're paying through the nose for that. How they're paying through the nose for health care as well. How they're paying through the nose for transportation to get to and from work and around the region. How they're paying for senior care, caring for elderly members of their family. Like, those are the real taxes on families. And I think Republicans want to talk about cutting, a small slice of the discretionary budget. That's ridiculous. We should be investing, and that investment, even if the government is like operating on debt, which is fine, will yield so many benefits and even dollars in terms of families being more productive and healthier and just better off. I think we got to think that way. That's the real role of government, despite what we're told.
To actually care for people.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's such a concept for people to actually care about people.
That's why we have government, though. I mean, we unfortunately keep electing people who don't believe in government to run the government, which I've always found curious. And then we wonder why we get what we get,
Yeah.
And then we end up in this situation where either way, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? They pass terrible policies that hurt families, and families feel that, and they're like, well, yeah, government sucks, because in that moment, government is sucking, because the people who run it are passing bad policy that hurts families, or they just don't do anything, and then they can sit back and say, well, yeah, government doesn't work. Well, it's like, well, you're not working it. So it's like, even if they do something, they win in terms of their ideology, and even if they don't do something, they win in terms of their ideology. And so we have to break through that as a party and actually, provide for people. Because a lot of those folks are disaffected, they'll run to someone like Trump, and we got to be better than that, in spades. So.
Yeah, and it's just kind of speaking about that phenomenon, in a sense. I did not vote for him. I hate the man. But I also hate the way the Democratic Party doesn't seem to exactly have a message.
Right.
And I really like that you seem to have a message.
I appreciate that.
It's very refreshing.
Yeah, I think the message is families first, right? Like, I think the message is, because who can argue with that? Everyone has a family, and I think it also is a framing issue too, right? It's like, I think conservatives believe that the basic unit of society is the individual, well, that's not true. A baby isn't just born on the street and raises itself up, and we're not like autonomous beings. Like, the unit of society, a just, healthy society, is a family. Everyone has one, for better, for worse, however they feel about them, right? Depending on the day. But you still have one, and you came into this world because your family, to some degree, took care of you, or someone decided to take care of you, and you take that up a level, and that's basically a good society. So when people walk into the voting booth, they have to believe that progressives, that Democrats, are the party that puts families first. They got to think for themselves, and they do anyway. Based on how I pull this lever or mark this, this dot here, what's going to be best for my family?
Right.
And they have to always think it's Democrats, because we actually are the ones who deliver results for families. And when we don't live up to our values. When we're the party of the elite and the rich, and we cater to that slice of, because there are rich people in our party, whatever, we lose.
Yeah, and that's kind of a big issue. I mean, I'll be honest, like, I'm still a Democrat. I'm actually even running in Precinct 4-1 for judge of elections. Small position, but I can't do much else until I'm older. Yeah. But, oh God, what was I going to talk about? Oh, it was so important. Oh my God.
That's okay. You're talking about running, and you're still a Democrat, and sort of framing issues. Yes. Okay.
So I'm still thank you. Yeah. I'm still a Democrat and all of that, but a big fundamental problem with the Democratic Party, even at the national and even like the local level, somewhat, is that they still take big money corporations, like big money from corporations and big donations.
Yep.
That fundamentally doesn't help the Democratic Party's image, and doesn't help. Like, when you take big money from different donors and corporations, when the DNC does that, they speak for the corporations and not so much for the people. And I think a lot of people are frustrated, and that's kind of why they went to a person like Trump, because he was saying, clearly he didn't do that, but he was saying things in relation, or like he was the anti-establishment and populist or whatever. And I guess that's just the frustration. But I guess what can you say about your own candidacy and how that is being run? Like, are you taking like 3 flies right there?
Yeah, that's all.
Are you taking big money from corporations? Are you taking small dollar donations? And on a larger topic, how do you feel about money in politics, especially when it comes to something we already talked about, healthcare and the big pharma industry?
Yeah. I mean, I think, so, you look at Pat Meehan's list of donors, and it's just like, greatest hits list of like all the biggest corporations and moneyed interests. So, he takes money from corporate, interests. I do not. My campaign will be funded by, individual contributions, and, I also think, though, there are a lot of Democrats who take money from organizations that represent nurses and teachers. And
they are, and those things are okay.
Yeah, I think there's a difference there.
There is a difference.
Yeah, there's a difference.
If the organization actually is like a union or something, it directly represents the people, great.
Yeah, and I think, that's structurally where we run into problems, though, is that the system is generally set up for conservatives to win, right? So a conservative congressman like Pat Meehan can run in a district like Pennsylvania and take all the corporate money in the world, outraise a Democrat who, frankly, the Democrats have to every cycle reinvent the wheel with like a new candidate who needs to like then tap their network and raise all these small individual donations, and like that's really hard. Whereas they're taking fewer corporate donations, whereas Pat Meehan just has to go talk to 10 companies who are going to give him $10,000 a pop, and he's got $100,000 in the bank.
Right.
And so that's a lot less time, a lot less work, and then he can focus on other things, right? So like, it's kind of a setup if you think about it. So I think progressives need to think about, one, how do you win in that context? How do you win in that context? And I think the last presidential election, the Democratic primary showed that a lot can be raised with small individual donations if you do it right. Now, a little harder to get that level of contribution in a single congressional district, depending on which district it is. So we're going to really test the limits of that in 2018. And then I think we also have to be the party that's about changing that system once we get into power. Because we've been in power before. We didn't push through clean elections reform. We didn't push through an end to the Electoral College. We didn't push for states to really address the issue of gerrymandering. We missed some opportunities. And so I think we have to figure out a way to be strategic and win under the current system. And that's going to look different in a lot of different places. And then I think we also have to change the system. I think that's a very important goal, because we will continue to lose massively and get our clocks cleaned unless we change that system, because it's a setup. Now that's setting aside voter suppression that happens outright and a lot of things I think conservatives do to. We need to have election day be a national holiday. We need as I mentioned, getting rid of the Electoral College. We need to have automatic registration. We have candidates in this race who I think should be pushing for automatic registration at the state level, given their roles in state government, and I'm waiting to see it. So I think we really have to head there and build a system that is just better for all citizens. There are other countries that are doing it already, and we're still struggling with getting everyone to vote. So
I think at least my polling place, or I'm not sure, but I read an email some month or two ago that 17.2% of the people that voted in November voted in the May primary. That may have to do with the fact that it's a local election here and people just don't care. But they did say it was higher than normal. So
celebrating
it's a good 17%. Thing. But, okay, so I feel like I could talk to you forever. Excuse me. You kind of talked a little bit about clean energy and the environment and stuff. But I guess a question that a lot of people have, that I'm going to get this wording right. Pipelines. How do you feel about them? What can we do? What would you do if elected? Basically, how what is it? The one in PA, the canal, Sabal.
Manitou is the pipeline that goes through.
Maybe it's that one. Maybe I'm confusing it with a different one. But how would you be able to stop work on that? What could you do, maybe not to stop work on that, but to hinder work on that in a sense?
So I think the principle needs to be first and foremost public safety, right? So whatever ways that we're getting energy from our wonderfully beautiful planet need to be safe for the people the energy is meant to serve, period. So there was an incident in San Bruno in California where a pipeline blew up and a bunch of people died and a bunch of houses blew up, and that's completely unacceptable and needs to be avoided at all costs, right? So that means really looking at the lines that we're running and how safe they are and what the security measures there are. I think the thing about pipelines is that they're they themselves are long, but they are short-sighted. And that I think a lot of times, really good, hardworking people in good, well-paying union jobs are like, well, this is going to provide jobs for the next 5 to 6 years. The numbers tend to be inflated about how many jobs they're actually going to provide and how well-paying they are and how long they're going to be there. So I think we need to see the forest for the trees, and that if we continue to invest in an industry, a fossil fuel industry, that is taking us down a road that really isn't both environmentally and economically leading anywhere quite prosperous, and that if we just shift our focus a little bit to actually building that 100% renewable energy economy, then we can also have those jobs, and they can be well-paying, and they can be real jobs and not just sort of phantom jobs like a lot of these companies claim that they're starting. And it's the added benefit, which is really the biggest thing, of enhancing our environment. So I just worry that continued investment down the fossil fuel lane distracts us from this broader, larger goal that we should be working towards, which is a renewable energy economy. So at some point we have to say, stop. That another pipeline doesn't make sense, and this particular project isn't safe, especially if it's not safe. That to me is the biggest thing. So you look at Mariner 2 running through Delaware and Chester County, and there are places where it's close to an elementary school, and it's dangerous. And, so if I'm a parent, I'm sending my kid to that elementary school, I'm gonna have real problems with that pipeline, and that's not even power or wealth that's like staying in my community. That's stuff that's getting shipped out, out of the community. So if you want to look a parent in the eye and tell them that you're going to put their kid in danger so you can ship some energy out of their community and wealth that they'll never see, try it. But I don't think that's a winning argument. So I think what the federal government's got to do is be incentivizing some of these energy companies to, and it's got to set standards. It's got to say, like, look, we are committed to moving to a 100% renewable energy economy in 10 years. Get on board. I think it's even fine to incentivize energy companies to some extent to do that, for a socially beneficial goal. But like the tax breaks we give them now for ruining our environment and putting people in danger are ridiculous and should be stopped. So. Yeah,
and I think, I don't know, I think it's actually even the pipeline, it might, I remember being on Chester Valley Trail. I sometimes like to walk or bike on that trail. It's right by King of Prussia, kind of. It starts in King of Prussia and then goes out to I have no idea because I haven't gone that far.
Yep.
But I think there's like a pipeline that kind of runs next to or by a part of that trail.
Yep.
There are kids that walk it, there are families that bike it, there are dogs that walk it. My dogs walk it.
Yep. There's no reason with our incredible natural wealth in the state that we can't do more with wind, do more with solar. We have incredible rivers and waterways. We can't do more with hydroelectric power. That still protect rivers and streams and fish. And there's so much we can do. I feel like we're only scratching the surface. And so. And it's such the opportunity to create great jobs as well. So
it is, and I even learned about something called wave energy the other day, which I had no idea was a thing.
Like actual ocean waves, or
like wave energy, but that wouldn't impact PA.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't think we water directly.
Not the ocean, but wave that energy can be captured though and sent other places. So it's
But
there's lots.
So, remind me if we talked about this or not, because I can't honestly remember. We talked about money in politics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess the last thing I really want to touch base on with you is, I believe you're associated with Justice Democrats somehow. Can you talk about that a little bit and how that started? And the process in general, I guess?
So I'm proud to have Justice Democrats' endorsement. I think, they represent a network of progressives who stand for things that, I agree with and who aren't afraid to stand up for, families first policies and basic human rights for a lot of groups in our society. So really happy to have their endorsement, and it feels great to be campaigning with other people around the country who share my values, and we help each other, things like that. So it all started with just a conversation with them, and then they have an endorsement process where you talk to their leadership, and then I'm also fortunate that they're an organization that comes with national resources. So to me, that's a benefit to folks in PA7 because I can sort of nationalize the race and say, hey, I'm the best, strongest Democrat to, go up against Pat Meehan and fight those policies next fall. And I have the backing of this national organization that's going to bring resources to support that campaign.
Yeah, because, people all over donate to that organization.
Totally.
I think maybe even I've donated to that.
Yeah, and I've had volunteers come out. Like, we had a canvas and a bunch of volunteers showed up that I never even talked to that were recruited through the Justice Democrats Network. So it's great. Yeah, it's really nice for like a non-career politician like myself to be supported by an organization that helps you, build your campaign up. So
yeah, cool. I think final question. So you kind of talked about it, but you didn't. So we talked a little bit about the war on drugs. I want to talk about the war specifically on one drug. The war on marijuana. I don't think it really should be illegal. I don't think I think it should be recreationally available. I think, yes, there should be maybe some limits on it, like no kids under 16 or so should have access to it. That's probably a bad idea. But how do you feel about like legalizing marijuana or if there would be anything that would come across your desk, how would you be able? What would you do on that front? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to look at issues like, issues marijuana, drugs, whatever, as public health issues. I think that's got to be the big change, right? So, again, like, my mother has struggled with, addiction as a disease her entire life, and I've seen her basically be criminalized and treated pretty poorly by a system that, even when I was like inside of her, she was put in danger by being put in prison when she had a baby inside of her, and that's cool. And I think we're a better country than that, So I take that really seriously. How we support people who, maybe have an addiction, but also just moving towards not criminalizing everyone. We have something like 65 million Americans who have a record, and we just criminalize so many people, and I would argue many of them needlessly. And the war on drugs is a big part of that. And so I think when it comes to people who are struggling with addiction, we need to treat that as a public health issue and not a criminal issue. That's number one. Number two, I'm definitely in favor of decriminalizing things and legalizing, marijuana in particular, that, in a way that allows us to have better public health outcomes. But I think that the center of it has to be public health. So, whatever we're finding that legalization or certain patterns of use or whatever are not in the spirit of true public health, then I think we need to revisit that and make sure that we have treatment and care and, protections in place for people to, if they're going to use something, to use it in a healthy, productive, even recreational way. And if they're struggling with the disease of addiction, to get the care that they need, and also to find like positive outlets for what they want to do in life. But I don't think investing in this massive, the conservatives want to talk about how they're like small government people, but I think one of the most bloated sort of programs that we have are programs to fight this so-called war on drugs. And Pat Meehan's been a part of that as a district attorney and a U.S. attorney. It's like, objectively flawed march towards criminalizing millions of people and really endangering their families. My family was endangered by these policies. Literally locked, putting women behind bars who have babies inside of them. That's insanity. Like, it's just like, it's like we live in a third world nation, like we don't. So instead of giving them the care that they need, so yeah, I think we need to come at it from a public, health standpoint. That is, how do we support everyone, using whatever it is that they need to feel whole in a healthy way. I think there are a lot of people who use recreationally who don't pose a threat to society. Great, that's a form of freedom. And I think there are some people who are addicted who need real support and not to be thrown in jail. So
Yeah, well, I pretty much answered that question, so thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
That's it,
Good at all,
unless
yeah.
you have anything to add.
No, I mean, I would just say about the race that, you know, I think there are a lot of...
There's like 6 people running.
Look, there's lots of good candidates in the race, and my pitch to voters is that, you know, I think I'm the best person to go up against Pat Meehan for 2 reasons. One is because I think, again, all I've done is support kids and families my whole life, and I know what it means to stand for and execute on families first policies. You know, I know how to get it done, and I've shown that in my career. And then 2, I think we need to make a strong argument that you know, what we're up against are people who are anti-family, who are, you know, anti, you know, healthy communities with their environmental policies, their economic policies, their education policies, their healthcare policies, and be really upfront about that. And I think that's what's going to win the day. When we convince voters that they're walking into the booth and they're going to vote for the person in the party that are pro-families. That's, you know, I think most people vote their hearts, and they feel that. They can feel that from you. So I think you're going to get that from me more than you are some of the other candidates in the race. Respect them. I think they're good people. But I think we need to win this one. And I'm not able to do that myself. You know, I think we together as like common sense people in the 7th district are going to win it together.
Family.
Yeah, as a giant 7th district family, which all these,
which is so crazily
you know,
outlined. It looks like a boot that's like chopped in several. And you know what it looks like? One of those female boots that like go up to your knees and bent in half, kind of.
Yeah. That's the only way we're gonna get it done, though. Is coming together and saying, you know, there's a chunk of us who already believe that what's happening right now is detrimental to our families, and then we need to go out there and talk to our neighbors and say, like, look, this new approach is going to be better for your family. And I think that's the way you win most elections, and this election in this context. And that's what we're going to do. So thank you for the time to talk to you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for talking to me. And thank you all for watching in the future, because Facebook Live wouldn't work.
Great.